Well, now, for more on our top story in Niger and the coup d'etat which has been underway there since Wednesday, I can welcome our politics editor, Mark Perelman. Thanks very much for joining us, Mark. So first of all, we now know who the head of this so-called transitional council is. What did he say in this televised address that we've just seen?
Yeah, just a few minutes ago, finally, I should say, we know who the leader of this coup is. We had information that it was the head of the Presidential Guard, General Tchiani. Now it's official. He just took to the airwaves on national television, and he explained that he was indeed the head of this new junta that took power or is about to take power, depending on how you define it. Just a couple of days ago, there was uncertainty. There were probably negotiations as to whether he would officially come out as the leader or if he wanted to stay behind the scenes. We now know that he is the leader, and he also explained some of the reasons why. And essentially, he said, I was in charge of the military. He was just appointed as chief of staff in early April. The army chief was only appointed. He has been there for 10 years. But what he was saying is that despite all the changes that were put in place by the president, he had not been able to deliver when it comes to security. He said that clearly the results were not there. He said that the president had actually used the armed forces sometimes as a private militia. This is a very serious allegation. He said we're not actually fighting terrorism. We were pretending to, but we're not actually doing so. And he also lamented the fact that cooperation with Mali and Burkina Faso was not happening. He said, okay, because we have disagreements. Obviously, there were coups in those two countries, and President Bazoum was very much opposed to this. And as a result, cooperation with those two countries, he said from a security standpoint, he thought that this was ill-advised, that this was a mistake. He was more vague in terms of what this means concretely for the security cooperation. Let's not forget, there are 1,500 French troops on the Nigerian soil. He said, we're hoping our partners will understand what we're up to, our financial partners, because obviously there are lots of challenges for the country, but also our security partners. It's now a big question mark. Will the United States, who have a military presence in Niger, decide to cooperate with the regime they've vividly denounced, but now seems to be entrenched? The big question mark still remains: what will happen with the president? He still has not, as we speak, formally resigned. And his foreign minister, who said on France 24 yesterday that he was the interim chief of government, is still around. He's also free. He's still free to communicate, I can tell you that. And so it's a kind of strange situation, but maybe things will come to a head in the next few hours.
Yeah, we've had a serious lack of clarity for about a day and a half now. So is this now confirmation that this coup d'etat is complete? We've now seen the French president this Friday calling it a coup for the first time, and not just an attempted coup. So is this now clarity on who is leading Niger, or are we still going to see some power wrangling and uncertainty going forward, do you think?
Well, at least on the side of the rebels, we know who their leader is. We knew who he was, but now it's official. The problem is that you still have two powers in parallel, because the president is still in his position as we speak. The logic would be that he will be forced to sign a resignation letter and maybe go to another country, but he has not accepted this. He's still free to speak. He spoke to the French president this morning. He's still exchanging. The next step would be maybe his arrest, or at least some arrest. But this hasn't happened. Even those who were in government with him, party members, the military have essentially tried to avoid any brutal confrontation in the hope that things might go smoothly, because they're facing criticism regionally, internationally, even by Russia, for instance. So it's not an easy situation for them. If there is violence, sense, this could obviously become even more difficult for them.
And General Tchiani, what more then do we know about this man?
Well, he was the head of the Presidential Guard since 2011. He was appointed by the former president of Niger, Mahamadou Issoufou, who's very close to Mohamed Bazoum. He finished his 2 mandates. He said he would not run again because this is what the constitution says. And Mohamed Bazoum took the helm, and he decided to keep General Tchiani. Often, when you come to power, you change the head of the Presidential Guard. He didn't do this. One of the reasons why he didn't do this is that as he was about to be inaugurated 2 years ago, there was an attempted coup. And who essentially saved him? General Tchiani. So obviously, as a result, Mohamed Bazoum thought, well, this is a loyal man. He saved me, so I will keep him in that position. And clearly, we didn't know until a few minutes ago what has changed. And clearly, General Tchiani was said there was discontent within the military about the job that was done in fighting terrorism, that this was not properly done. He said, we warned President Bazoum that this is not right, you're not doing this the right way. And as a conclusion, this is at least in his mind, they had no choice but to try to destitute him, take matters into their own hands, and try to do a better job on the security front, but also on the social and economic front, because Niger is one of the world's poorest countries.